David, I curse you today. You will never be able to have sex all your life. A story written by Christie Midnight Tales. Amora's world was simple, but it was filled with the kind of joy that money could never buy. She grew up in a modest neighborhood in Enugu, where evenings smelled of roasted corn and nights carried the echoes of children's laughter. In that world, David was her anchor. They met when they were barely more than teenagers. Amora, with her radiant smile and eyes that always looked like they carried secrets of a gentler world, and David, with his restless energy, bold laughter, and dreams that seemed far too big for the streets he walked on. From the very first day, their connection was undeniable. He was her best friend, her protector, her safe space. Life wasn't easy. Amora's father was a petty trader who barely made enough to provide for his family, while her mother struggled to keep food on the table by selling vegetables at the market. But Amora was never ashamed of her humble background. If anything, she found comfort in it because David never judged her. In return, Amora loved him with everything in her. She believed in his dreams. She believed in his promise. They would spend evenings sitting on a wooden bench under the mango tree behind Amora's house, whispering to each other about a future where nothing, not poverty, not hardship, not family expectations, could stand in their way. Amora, David once said, "One day, you'll see me walk into this compound, and I'll take you away. I'll give you the life you deserve." Amora had smiled that night, her head resting on his shoulder. "I don't need the world, David. You are enough." Those words weren't mere comfort, they were truth. For Amora, David was the beginning and the end of her dreams, but life has a way of testing love. David's ambitions began to outgrow the small town. He wanted more than what his hands could find in Enugu. An opportunity came, a chance to travel to Lagos with a relative who promised him work and a better life. Amora's heart tightened the first day he mentioned it. She tried to hide the fear in her eyes, but David saw through her. "You're scared," he whispered, holding her hand as if it was the only thing tethering him to the ground. I just don't want distance to change us." David chuckled, brushing his thumb against her palm. "How can distance change what God himself has written? Amora, you're my heart. You're me forever. I will never leave you behind." But even as he spoke those words, Amora felt the weight of uncertainty pressing against her chest. The days leading to his departure were filled with silence and stolen moments. They would sit for hours, saying little, each pretending to be strong for the other. Amora cooked his favorite meal of jollof rice and fried plantain the night before he left, though she could barely swallow a bite herself. Every laugh, every smile, every word between them that evening carried the heaviness of goodbye. That night they took a blood covenant promising not to leave each other, no matter the circumstance, but life has a way of deciding for people. On the morning of his departure, Amora woke before dawn. She followed David to the bus park, had fingers refusing to let go of his until the very last moment. David turned, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Wait for me, Amora, no matter how long it takes." Her lips quivered as she nodded. And with that, David boarded the bus to Lagos, his figure shrinking into the distance as the engine roared to life. Amora stood rooted at the park, her chest hollow, her eyes fixed on the disappearing vehicle. She didn't move until the dust from the bus had settled and the crowd had dispersed. That day, it felt like the sun dimmed just a little in her world. For Amora, life without David became a series of endless waiting. She clung to the memory of his promises, of the nights under the mango tree, of the certainty in his voice when he called her his forever. Suitors came, offering money, stability, and a life far more comfortable than the one she lived. But Amora turned them all away. Her parents, unaware of the blood oath, warned her not to wait for him because he is not coming back anytime soon. But Amora held hope in her heart. David was the person that broke her virginity. David was her first love. "Why should I betray him?" she said. "I trust my David," she told herself every day. "He will come back. He promised to, so I will wait, no matter how long it takes." And so she waited. The weeks after David's departure bled into months, and the months slowly faded into years. Yet Amora remained steadfast. Every morning, she woke with the same quiet hope that perhaps that day, she would hear his voice or see his familiar frame walking into the compound with that boyish grin. But David's letters were scarce, his calls even scarcer. At first, he wrote with passion, pages filled with dreams of their future, promises of how hard he was working to make money, reassurances that she was still his only love. Amora would read those letters until the ink almost faded, pressing them to her chest as if the words could steady her heartbeat. Then, gradually, the letters grew shorter, fewer. Some months passed with none at all. When the neighbors teased her, asking if her Lagos man had forgotten her, Amora would smile faintly and whisper, "He will come back." He promised. But the truth was harder. Suitors came, big men with money, men with cars, men whose families were eager to tie their names to Amora's quiet beauty and gentle reputation. They came with palm wine, with gifts, with promises of security. Her parents pleaded with her. Her mother, tired of seeing her only daughter waste away in uncertainty, scolded her often. "Amora, a woman's beauty doesn't wait forever," her mother would snap. "David has gone. You must face reality." But Amora only shook her head. "I will wait. He said he would come back for me." To her, rejecting those men wasn't foolishness. It was loyalty. But in Lagos, things were changing. David's world was no longer the dusty streets of Enugu or the shade of the mango tree. He now walked among people who dressed better, spoke bolder, and lived lives far beyond what he had ever known. He worked during the day, hustled through nights, and watched as ambition began to sharpen his edges. And then came her. The wealthy woman he met at a business gathering, beautiful, educated, the kind of woman whose presence silenced rooms. She had money, influence, and the power to lift him into a new world. David felt small beside her, yet drawn like a moth to a flame. It started with conversations, then outings, and before long, a dangerous thought began to whisper in his mind. What if Amora no longer fit into this life I was building? He told himself lies to silence his guilt. That maybe she had already married someone else back home. Even when he knew they had a blood covenant, he would always say to himself, "Who knows how many men she has slept with? Besides, the oath can be broken. She doesn't fit into this my lifestyle." So David wrote less, called less, and when he did, his words lacked the fire they once carried. Back in Enugu, Amora felt the shift. The warmth in his letters was gone. His voice, when he called, sounded distracted, rushed, distant. She would hang up the phone and sit quietly for hours, staring at the wall, wondering if her faith was slowly becoming foolishness, but she never voiced it. She never told anyone of the gnawing fear in her chest. To the world, she still carried herself with dignity, yet at night, when no one could see, she cried into her pillow. 2 more years passed this way. By then, her friends were married. Some had children. Whenever she attended weddings, people would glance at her and whisper, "She's still waiting for that boy who went to Lagos." The whispers cut her, but she held her head high. One rainy evening, she sat beneath the mango tree where she and David once dreamed of the future. She closed her eyes and whispered to the night, "David, please don't forget me. Please." Her heart believed. Her hope held on. But David had already begun to slide into the arms of temptation. The wealthy woman showered him with attention, with gifts, with the taste of a life he had never known. With her, he didn't feel like the boy from Enugu, he felt like a man who could conquer Lagos. But every time Amora's name surfaced in conversation, his chest tightened with unease. He knew he owed her answers. He knew she was waiting, but the truth was ugly. He no longer wanted her. According to him, she no longer fit in his status. He now rode with bigger people, and so, the darkest thought started looming in his heart. One night, as he sat with friends over drinks, laughing too loudly to hide his own turmoil, an idea formed. A cruel, selfish idea that could sever him from Amora forever. If he could create a reason, a scandal, that would justify his rejection of her, then perhaps he could silence his conscience and marry the wealthy woman without guilt. The thought festered, growing darker with every passing day. Amora, meanwhile, had no idea. She had no idea that the man she was waiting for was looking for every means to destroy her. She still prayed for him at night, still rejected suitors, still carried his promises like sacred scripture. She believed her love was being tested, that faithfulness would be rewarded, but while she guarded her heart, David was sharpening the knife of betrayal, and with every beat of time, the storm drew closer. Watch out for part 2 and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel.